This is a demonstration on how to rebuild a Jordan Valve Mark 60 pressure regulator. First, you will receive a kit from Jordan Valve, which will have these parts in it. You will have a diaphragm, stem and lock nut, disc pin, a set of seats consisting of the plate, the disc, and the disc guide. First step when you get the kit is to lay out the parts to make sure you have what you need. Then you would take the disc and the disc pin, insert like this to make sure that the pin rotates freely without any binding. Once you have that, you're ready to move on to the rebuild. Now that we have the repair kit ready, we're going to disassemble the valve. We start off by taking all the pressure off of the spring that's inside the spring housing by back of the adjusting screw all the way out until you feel no tension. Next, we have to loosen all these bolts to take them off so we can get the spring housing off. If the bolts are loose, you can remove the spring housing, exposing this range spring. Just remove that. And now you have to remove the diaphragm assembly by rotating counterclockwise until it comes loose from the stem. With the spring housing and diaphragm assembly removed, place the valve in the vise in the direction shown. Remove the cap bolts. With the bolts removed, just lift the cap off of the body, exposing the seats. Place the valve on the table with the finger, go through the back side of the body, pushing out on the seats until they come out of the body assembly. With the valve back in the vise, remove the stem and the disc pin by loosening the nut from the assembly and turning the screw out at the same time. You can remove the disc pin from the body. Inspect the bore of the body for any defects. If you find any holes, scratches, replace the body. Now we are ready to rebuild the valve using the parts that came with your rebuild kit. Take the disc pin that came with the kit, insert it into the body. Take the nut that comes with the stem, hold in body as such. Take your stem, come through the top side of the valve, through the body, and run the nut up on the stem. And then insert the stem into the disc pin as far as it will go. You can then lock the nut to the disc pin with 2 wrenches. To remove the old diaphragm, use a spanner wrench, placing the 2 holes on the diaphragm plate, and rotate until it becomes loose. Discard the old diaphragm. Inspect the sealing surface of the diaphragm for any scratches across this real small sealing surface. If there are any scratches, you can take this on a very flat surface with sandpaper and sand it flat. Take the new diaphragm, place over the diaphragm plate, take your lower diaphragm plate, screw it in as far as it will go, spanner wrench, and then tighten up until you see a slight bulge in the diaphragm. Take your diaphragm assembly and install on the stem and the body. Just run it in quite a few turns until when you're pressing down, the disc pin is approximately in the center of the body. Now we're going to install the new set of seats and adjust the valve. Take a little bit of anti-seize, go on the back side of the plate with a real thin coat around the outside sealing edge. With the index pin pointing towards you and the valve in this position in the vise, insert the plate into the body with the disc pin coming through the center hole. Take your disc, put a couple of drops of real light oil on the surface. On the disc, there will be a very small arrow. This arrow will point toward the index pin. Place the disc as such and just rub it in a few times to make sure it seats. There should not be any grabbing or any type of grit between the plate and the disc. Okay. To adjust the seat, press down on the diaphragm assembly all the way. You will then look at the seats to see if the orifices in the plate and the orifices in the disc line up. In this case, they do not. You can see a small amount of plate through the disc. Rotate the diaphragm assembly clockwise until the orifices line up perfectly, as such. Take the disc guide that comes with the seat set with a hole for the index pin. Place it into the body. Press down to make sure your seats are still lined up. Take a small amount of anti-seize. Put it on the outside sealing edge of the disc guide. Take your cap. Place it over the body. And then install your nuts and bolts. Run the bolts down finger tight all around the cap and the body. Take the torque wrench, using the torque that is listed in the Mark 60 I&M, evenly torque the cap bolts in a star pattern until the correct torque is reached. Okay. Once you've reached this point, take the valve, set it upright in the vise. Take the spring set, place it back on top of the body. Take your spring housing, put it back on top of the body. Run your screws down finger tight, and once again, torque it to the value that is listed in the Mark 60 I&M. Okay. Once you have the bolts back in and properly torqued, run the adjusting screw down until you feel it hit the spring. Take a wrench, put a little bit of tension on the spring. Once you have done that, you have successfully completed a Mark 60 rebuild. If you have any questions, please refer to your Mark 60 I&M or your local representative, or you can call 1-800-543-7311. You can also go to our website, www.jordanvalve.com, for links that will show you how to do this there.